nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh, this is really cool. So
Yeah.
obviously I watched you on TV. You were telling me you actually watched my season
I
as
actually
well?
watched you on TV. I watched your season and David Archuleta's season.
Nice.
So those were the two that I was like. Those were the only two that I had really grown up with. So going on to Idol, I hadn't really had like a lot of the experience that a lot of people had just watching it.
Right.
So it was a little bit different for me, but I did watch yours, which was very weird to then see you being an Idol reviewer.
Sure.
And then now meeting you in person.
Yeah.
Very strange.
It's
Full
very
circle.
strange. So tons of time between David Archuleta's season and mine.
Yes.
So for most people like myself, I watched American Idol, and then when I stopped watching, I stopped.
Yeah.
Like I never watched it again until I was on it.
Yeah.
So for you, what made you watch it again?
Well, I have an older brother who's 5 years older, so anything that he kind of watched when I was younger, I was forced to watch. So I didn't grow up on like the kid shows that a lot of kids like did. I kind of watched what he wanted to watch. So he was super into that. And my mom was super into it. So she was the one that was like calling in and doing all that kind of stuff. So that made it fun. But I loved singing from a young age. I just never really thought of it as like a profession at that point. So it was just like, oh, this TV show, like that's what they do. They're just like actors that sing.
Right.
And then realizing now, no, that's their profession. It's like they're gonna sing.
Right. So when you decided to go on, was it more of a dream of yours or of your mom's?
I think it was I mean, I don't think my parents really had cared at that point. Like, the show had been going on for so long, and they had lived in LA for so long. It was like you hear people all the time, like, oh, I was on this show, I was on this show, I was on this show. So it didn't carry as much weight as I feel like it did when the show first started. But when I had gotten reached out to from like the casting producers, I didn't really know if it was real, which I feel like a lot of people did. So I kind of like asked my mom, I was like, is this real? Like, do I respond? And she was like, no, like, you don't know, like, you never know what that is. So I didn't respond, and then I got a call when I was at college, and they were like, hey, like, we really, really want you to audition for Idol. Would you be down to sing for the producers? So that was when I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna do this. And my mom, of course, like, both my parents were very, very supportive. Yeah. And I'm very lucky to have that. So she was just as excited for me to just get out there and show people who I was.
Yeah.
More than like being on TV or anything like that. I mean, she doesn't really care.
So speaking of who you is, musically, I feel like we were talking earlier, like we have similar music tastes, you and I, and like styles and feels and stuff. Would you say, well, you tell me, what would you say you grew up on musically that kind of developed you into what you are now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I feel like my dad, he grew up in Louisiana, so he was introduced to a lot of like R&B, jazz, stuff like that, and then later on in his life he became more of like a rock fan, and kind of his music taste got more broad. So when I was younger, I really grew up on like the Beatles and Joni Mitchell, and you know, people that I feel like now have really kind of dug themselves into my own writing and my own lyricism. So I feel like the Beatles was the biggest inspiration for me as a kid, because that was like every Sunday morning when Dad's making pancakes, like he's playing, you know, George Harrison, or he's playing the Beatles, or he's playing. So it was just kind of like that was what I grew up on. And then sort of when I became a teenager, I got into like the rock, as most teens do. So he was like, oh yeah, and took that and ran, and he was kind of like, okay, let's get you into this and this and this, and showed me a bunch of different artists. So I feel like now I really model myself after the ones that I listened to when I was a child, which probably is the same for you. I feel like probably what you listened to as a child now translate into your own music, because it's like it's ingrained in you.
Yeah, even like Disney songs.
Yeah.
Like even like and we're so blessed to have such freaking good Disney songs. Like songs in animated movies are so good. I think they don't get quite the respect they need to as far as developing the next generation of singers and songwriters. Because what you just said, like so much of your base in music is what you listened to when you were 5. Yeah,
your childhood.
Do you have a favorite Beatles album?
I mean, I feel like it definitely changes like year to year and month to month, really. Nice. But this, I would say like this year and through my Idol journey, I like lived by the White Album. Like just, that was like what I would kind of like, my mantra. Like I would wake up, play the White Album to its entirety, because that was like kind of what I did on Idol, was wake up super early, warm up the voice, and like listen to the White Album, and just kind of like, that was what I did.
That's my favorite album.
Is it? No!
Promise.
Stop!
Promise.
See, this is what I'm talking about. So I feel like people that have an appreciation for the Beatles, they always say like the White Album is like either their favorite or something that they're super into right now. So it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have like, you know, when most people think of the Beatles, they think of like Sgt. Pepper.
And Yellow Submarine.
I wanna hold your hand.
Yeah.
Which I'm down with. But when you think of like the White Album and all the songs on that, it's more like, it feels like they went and made it in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and just made this song. So do you have a favorite song on that album? Before you say, let me think of mine, and I wonder if we have the same one.
I don't know.
I definitely do.
I don't think I have one.
Rocky
Wait, what's
Raccoon
yours?
is my favorite.
Okay.
Rocky
that
Raccoon.
makes sense for like who you are.
I love that song so much. Ooh, let's go on. You said that makes sense for who I am.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Because I think I feel like even with Beatles songs, they're such a specific artist in that like they themselves touched on so many different genres in their musical endeavors. So I think when people say their favorite song, it really speaks to how they sing or like lyricism and phrasing of what they sing. So I think that really like plays a part into like who you are. So the fact that that's your favorite song on your favorite album makes sense.
Yeah, this is like psychoanalyzing who we are via the Beatles.
I know.
I love it. Okay, a couple questions about Idol itself.
Yes.
When you were in Hollywood Week.
Yes.
So when I was in Hollywood Week, nobody knows who's going to be, you know, the big feature in the television like episodes. You know what I mean? Like you're all on an even playing field, all 200 and whatever of you. Was there anybody in Hollywood Week that kind of seemed like they were the big dog, like the king or queen of Hollywood Week? Who would you say if someone would fit that description?
I think this season of American Idol was pretty unique in that we had this platinum ticket aspect of it. Right. So I think the production and the show tried to kind of enforce this big dog energy, kind of what you're talking about, with the three of them, Kennedy, Hunter Girl, my baby, and Jay, my other baby. I love them both so much. But with them, they tried to kind of make them seem like outcasts or make them kind of seem like jerks. And I think the three of them did a really good job of implementing themselves into the family that had already been established, not as these platinum ticket winners and as this thing. So I feel like that was the only sense of like top dog that I think I felt, and that was strictly because production had this this idea and this preconceived notion of, okay, these are going to be the ones that everyone's going to want to look out for.
Right.
And then you realize like, oh, they're just as much on an equal playing field as we are.
Totally.
It's just they have to learn another song, which in hindsight almost sucked for them, because it's like you have to do this, and then you have to also do all these other things, and people, you know, come in thinking that you're the big dog, or think that you could be like kind of exactly,
I totally agree
like
with
high
you.
ego. So I think the three of them did a really, really great job, like I said, of establishing that like family friendship type of energy.
That's
but
good.
there wasn't really anybody that had these like egos, or like there wasn't really like, anybody crazy.
Was there anyone? So like on my season, Rayvon Owen was my roommate, and to me, going through Hollywood, I was like, this dude is a god.
Yeah.
Like vocally, he is destroying. He's gonna win. And there's another girl named Erica who was that way too, and was never shown on the show at all. So not necessarily like an ego or like I'm top dog, but was there like anyone that just
stood
crushed
out?
That everyone was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think one that had shocked a lot of the contestants up until Top 24 was announced was Yoli Mayer, who you didn't really see from like an audience perspective, and I feel she kind of established the bonding element of all the contestants from the jump. Like she was very like
that right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell like with the goodbyes, like even me, my scene with being like, let me hug her was like shown, because I was just like, I had such an a respect for her as an artist, and I felt a lot of people had that same respect for her. And she was kind of like just a fire from the very beginning of her singing journey on the show and prior. But I think her journey on like, you know, Hollywood Week was crazy because every song that she had done, like the 3 songs that she had done, were just back to back, like belting monsters, yeah. And I think the one that really made people think like, oh, there's no way she's going home was her duet. Of all things, the duet, where everybody is like stressed to the max, everybody is like throwing things together. You have no idea if it's going to come out right, but you're just hoping and praying that it does. Her and her partner came out with this mastermind of anything. It was insane, but it was so good. And it was the last one of the night, and everybody had been sitting there all damn day.
Exhausted.
Like sleeping.
Yeah,
fully
100%.
Sleeping through people's.
100%.
And it was just like, no disrespect to any of the people that, you know, you were kind of dozing off to. It was just the hours and the time that you were just spent sitting in those chairs is so draining.
Involuntary.
So having. Exactly.
To stay awake. No way.
Exactly. So having them go on last and like jolt us with this like energy was incredible. So then to come to, you know, top 24 and hearing that she, you know, didn't make the cut, it was insane. And then with that whole top 24 cut, it was so weird because we were doing these battles, and she and Ava were the first people to go in and do a battle. And one person came out. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is how it's going to be. And I was partnered up with Danielle.
Right, I remember, yeah.
And she had been my best friend on the show. Love her, so excited that you're doing the show. I'm going to the show that you guys are doing too. But I was just like, oh my God. So all day we had kind of distanced ourselves from each other because we were just so like, from that point on, it was just like we were together all the time. And then we found out one of us is going to go home. So it was just like, I love you. Whatever happens is going to happen. Like, just mind-blowing, like, you know, you have to go into it thinking like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then, you know, it worked out in our favor and we both ended up going through. But like I said, the Yoli and Ava thing was kind of crazy because it was just like, that was the first time we had seen that happen. And that outcome, it was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because for a long time, when you're going through cuts, not to sound harsh, but they make sense. Yeah. For a long time.
They
you're
do.
Like, yep.
There's rarely like, some that are like, oh, like what?
And then all of a sudden, when the first one hits you at 24 or 48 or whenever it does, and then they continue to hit and they never stop, all of a sudden it changes to like,
your perception
oh man, I'll miss you, to like, no.
Like,
how could this happen?
And I think that was happening from the 59 to top 24 cut on. Like, every cut after that was just gut-wrenching.
Yep.
And, you know, even with 59, you don't think that you're going to make a connection with 59 people, but you really do. And you come into this environment where everybody has, you know, the same goal and everybody has the same kind of respect for each other. Luckily, there wasn't, like I said, any sort of egos to where you had to, like, kind of battle that person or feel like you were less or more or whatever.
There usually isn't at that point.
No.
Most, like, they're pretty good at the people who think they're going to win before they even audition.
Yeah.
If they even make it past the first audition, usually weeded out pretty quickly. And I think that's something that people don't understand as viewers is the genuine bond that you create with the other contestants, because everyone at home is like, yeah, but you're competing, so you have to wish that it's like, no. It's like, I will never have a closer bond. It's a special bond that I had with especially my top 5, top 10, like the people that I was with on the show.
I mean, you went a lot longer than I had, so like I can't even imagine. Like my leaving journey on Idol was so gut-wrenching because it was like the one time that we had like a press party after eliminations. Yeah. So it was like all these 6 of us, you know, we're all like so sad. And it was one of the best moments of my life, getting kicked off Idol in a weird way, and one of the worst. One of the best because I knew like, even when I talked, I had like one-on-one conversations with all 3 of the judges. So I was so lucky to have that, like,
nice.
in-depth conversations.
Love that.
So I was able to like kind of take something away and be like, you know, like, these people really respect me. And having people that are fully established in the music industry come to you and say, you know, what you're doing means something. And I think if you keep doing it, you're going to get a yes, and it's going to be something, you know, worth fighting for. So having that was amazing, but at the same time, it was like I had created these friendships, like they had become my best friends. And then it was like, okay, like back to your bed, like see ya.
Yep.
But, you know, and luckily God bless this, you know, cast, but luckily everyone was really good about keeping in touch up until the very end of the season. And Hunter and Noah were like some of my best friends on the show. Like, we had spent every day together. I mean, I would have spent more time with Danielle if she wasn't a minor, so they kind of divided us up because they had school to do and stuff like that. So, you know, I was spending every single waking hour with Noah, Dan, Marshall, and Hunter Girl. And it was just like having to leave them knowing I'm an LA girl, you know, West Coast born and bred. They're going back to Countryland, and I'm probably not going to see them unless I, you know, make a trek over there, you know? Which I'm going to.
Because that's where I am too.
Yes, so I'm going to. So I want to. But yeah, that was like the hardest part, because I was like, I know I'm never going to see Noah again, because he's...
You will.
Well, yes. But I mean, that boy, love him to death, but... I had known, in Hawaii, we had connecting doors because our rooms were right next to each other, because McNeely, Thompson, right next to each other.
Nice.
So I literally would open that connecting door like every single morning and be like, we're talking or we're chatting or we're having a conversation about whatever. And I knew that that was the only way I was going to be able to like really have communication with him. He wasn't a texter. He's got a kid, you know, he's not going to sit there and have a FaceTime conversation with you. He just doesn't have the time. Sure. So I knew even from that moment, before he had even won the show, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, I'm like this, you know, and that was how I felt with a lot of people, you know, with Nicolina, with people that were from Canada. It's like, I don't know the next time I'm going to see you. We're never going to have a moment like this again, when we're all here forced, really. And just having like the best time. It was just jam sessions all the time. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible. And I know that you probably think back to your Idol time and think the same thing and just are like, oh my gosh.
100%. It's like a big music camp.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a crash course.
It's so much fun. A couple of questions and we got to run. But, because we have to run because you have load in and sound check.
Yes, I do.
So we're doing this Idol hometown tour thing. And the very first show is tonight with you. How do you feel? You just came from rehearsal,
yes,
right?
I did just come from rehearsal.
How do you feel about everything?
I feel really good. Great. You know, I think I'm excited. I was really nervous to meet you. I feel like that was something that I was really nervous about, because I was like,
that's funny.
I just want the energy to be good, and it's great.
Oh, it's great.
And I'm like, yay. Like, so I think that was something that I was really looking forward to. There's a lizard.
There's a lot out here.
So cute.
They're very fast. Go ahead.
Anyway, so my band is so wonderful. I'm so lucky to have some guys that are just jazz musicians through and through, so they're just ready for anything.
That'll be fun.
So yeah, it's going to be a really great show. I'm really excited to see you sing. This is the first time I'm really hearing you live, ever.
And I'm nervous about that. There's like you, Leah Marlene, she's going to be there tonight. Yep. Probably some other people.
Danielle's coming.
Danielle's going to be there.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I look up to. And it's weird because I review the shows and the contestants, and then now it's my turn to sing.
Yeah, I'm reviewing
like you guys could totally do like your own video and just crush me.
No.
If you wanted, which brings me up to my next question.
Yeah.
So while you're going through the show, when were you made aware of the Idol breakdown videos that I do, or were you aware before the show? And did you watch them? Did you stay away from them? In general, did like the contestants watch or not? Or like what was the general vibe of the Idol breakdown amongst contestants?
Amongst us? Yeah, amongst the contestants, yeah. I think for me, I really only watched the first episode because they did preface us before. They were like, when you go on the show, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have a lot to say. And there's going to be people that review it, there's going to be people. So they mentioned you. They mentioned another guy who I'm forgetting. I think it was like a podcast or something. But they were like, they're going to have a lot of opinions to say. Your choice, whether you want to watch it or not. As production team, we tell you not to look at any of that stuff, which it was really smart. I did watch the first one, and then it just became too much of like opinions of just everybody, whether it was good or bad, and I just felt like I couldn't. It was emotionally draining.
That's my advice too to people, like even to contestants. Like, I'm honored that contestants watch, but usually I have at least one point in the season where I like look into the lens and I'm like, if you were a contestant, stop watching. Like, don't. Because I totally agree. I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, and it's also like once you get to lives, like it just, you're so worn out, and it's just like
For real.
you don't have the energy to like go and read good or bad comments. Like it's just not. I did watch them now, like being after the show. I'm like,
really?
now I'm curious. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think like everybody has that, especially when you're on national television. Like I went back and watched everything because I like really couldn't do it while I was on the show. Like we had watch parties and stuff with the contestants. But it was just like so nerve-wracking. You get to points and there's certain performances that you just hate and you're like, oh my God, like I wish I could redo that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, I like agreed with everything that was said about me from you.
Sure.
So I there wasn't like any, I don't agree with that at all, or
it's all over the place. Like I feel like I'm always trying to be as accurate as possible, but I know that there'll be times where when I'm editing the video, I'm listening to what I say and I already disagree.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
I think
no, I was way too hard on her, or
or
I was way too generous, or I can't believe I said while I'm editing, just hours after I recorded it.
Your perception's already shifted.
It changes all over the place.
How are you feeling?
How am I
feeling?
Flip it
on you. Now I'm interviewing you.
I'm feeling good. There's a bunch of stuff. So this interview is exciting for me to get a hold of and get done. We found this cool random backdrop at the Airbnb.
Love it.
It is really pretty. Just looking at the monitor there.
I know. Try not to be narcissistic. Look at yourself.
And feeling good about the set. Louis Knight is opening.
I know. That was a shock. So how did that come about?
So good. Well, he and I have become friends.
Oh, nice.
And I was looking for, originally I was wanting Louis Knight tonight and then somebody else tomorrow, but that other person like just never replied because they just weren't into it. So I was like, oh, that's fine.
Okay.
So it just ended up being Louis opening, but he's gonna open for us, and then I'm gonna kind of open as well, and then I'm gonna be like the singing Ryan Seacrest, and then bring you on stage.
Yes.
And freaking rock.
Oh my gosh.
I'm hyped. Well, thank you so much for
driving
to the Airbnb. I'm glad it's close.
It's super close.
And I knew it would be. Kind of like right close to on the way to Hollywood.
Yeah, this is my hometown. Like this is where I grew up, Burbank. I just don't live here currently anymore.
Great.
But it was so lovely to meet you, and thank you for having me. And I don't want to speak for Danielle, but Danielle as well. Like this has just been fun.
My honor.
To kind of
can't wait.
Meet you first and just like sing, have kind of a big jam session with some really talented singers. So I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Well, thanks again.
Of course.